meeting life with this attitude of curiosity of like, what's going on now? And what's this about? It is really one of the distinguishing characteristics of a successful life. And what many people abandon is their artist, their inner artist. Letting yourself begin to jostle the life is hard and serious mantra that most of us have grown up with and gets reinforced every day.
Talk about concrete. You literally work with a material that you do not see what it's going to be until it dries. Well, hello, my Katie.
Hello, Soph. So lovely to connect with you. I always feel myself expanded and curious.
So do I. It's funny because as I prepare for coming together, I'm always like, oh, what happened this week? That's going to be a good, juicy conversation to have with you. And something did happen. So I'll jump right in. I'm signing up for a class that I wanted to. I love concrete. It's a weird thing. Like I've always joked that some women are into diamonds and I'm into concrete. I've done concrete floors. I've built, concrete furniture.
I know you've done a lot of art with concrete.
I do. It's really, and a long time, like when it wasn't, because now, it's more in fashion, but like 20 years ago, I was like, doing floors and bathtubs and things. And so I'm taking a class to like learn how to do, these kind of, what do you call those? Almost like sinks, but like vanities, top of the
Yes.
And so I was telling.
It's the most surprising thing. I mean, who would have thought when you open your mouth that this would be the. So thanks.
Well, that's interesting because your reaction is actually beautiful. Like you're excited and you find fun. And one of my friends, this couple of days ago, I was telling her, and she was like, "What are you going to go do that for? Like, how old are you that you're still learning things?" And I went, "What did you just say?"
Wow.
And she's a little bit older than me, but not by much. But it was, so I thought, what a juicy, like what world is that there is an age? I mean, I started riding my Harley when I was, I don't know, 50. So I guess I'm not, motivated against fear very much, but a lot of people are. So I'm curious to like, what do you say when someone has this kind of framework that it's like, there's an age to stop learning?
Oh, right. Well, all of the great inventors. I'm just thinking of Thomas Edison, whose lab burned down. His whole, this incredible lab with all of it, and it burned down. And as it was burning down, he called his family out. Come and look! You're never going to see anything like this again. He was curious about even. Oh, wow. This phenomena that other people would have said, oh my God, it's a tragedy. So the meeting life with this attitude of curiosity of like, what's going on now? And what's this about? It is really one of the distinguishing characteristics of a successful life. And sometimes called a growth mindset. But, the whole idea to which opposes that is that when you're little, you can do these kinds of things. You can do playful things and unexpected things. But once you're an adult, you're supposed to be actually like set in concrete. That's it. This is you, and you're going to just be this way and reliable. And we just know we can count on you to be predictable or, not challenging or, in a rut. I mean, it's a very interesting. I mean, what occurs to me is, does this person know you?
Well, not very well. I mean, it was a very, and I don't think she was so much talking about me as it was almost like you could see she was going towards, oh, I would not allow myself to do so. Like almost she was more, it wasn't so much a judgment. I think it was more like a sad statement of like, I don't do those things. Like I longer. And so I was curious, like, what do you think motivates is censoring of this? Is it like she's afraid it's too late? She's afraid, like what? Like I literally did not know where to take it. Like there was no space in my head for like that fits here. Like
or where do we go from here? Well, my sense is, so what I didn't get from you when we were first speaking is that she had some emotion in her voice.
There was a little bit.
And so you picked up the sadness. And I do think that that many people put themselves on a path, and it may not even be a path that they've chosen. It could have been chosen for them, by this is what you are. Like my mother was so happy that I learned how to type, because she said, you'll always have this to fall back on, because you can always be
The secretary. Did she meet you?
She met me, yeah. And so you might think, how well does your mother know you? And the answer is not very well.
Not very well.
Yeah. So the whole idea that life is open and full of discovery, and new things to learn. We allow that in children. But, my sense is that most people, the time they get to be an adult, are supposed to be more like predictable and,
but even,
put those things away.
Even that is interesting, because I remember my childhood more like my mother did not like dirty things. And so even as a child, I know what's going to happen when I do a concrete class, I can tell you.
Yeah.
I'll be covered, hands and nails and hair, the whole thing. I'll be, if it's a successful day, it'll be.
You'll just be in it and, be enjoying it in a sensory level. And
exactly.
My sense is also that there's the element of touch.
Yes.
And playing with, like playing with clay or, playing with big structures. So your artistic flair also is quite functional. I've seen the things that you've created, and they're both beautiful, but also highly functional. And that's a whole area that most people don't explore. So art is like non-essential. And then there's the stuff that's important in life. But bringing them together, that's unusual. And my sense is that it's also what scientists would call a pattern interrupt, that you've interrupted her sense of how things are supposed to be. Yeah. And I also think that's part of the job of the artist. And the artist in all of us is to interrupt patterns that are taking us down a predictable path where things are more boring.
Yeah, but do you think if we go, do you think, I know you and I often talk about fear as at the heart of it all. Do you think there is an element of, if I attempt to do something new, one, I'm probably going to be incompetent. I'm going to show myself, like going to a class itself.
Right. Let people know you don't know this. And yeah, you're a beginner.
And that is what I'm looking for. I want to be like these guys, do it all day, and they create these molds and these things, I'm going to be the only girl, I can tell you for a fact, because I've done those before. But so I rejoice in that. I rejoice in they're going to teach me how to do something that I don't know how to do. It's just so, and then I'll be enriched by that experience. And therefore I'll do things that I couldn't, that before would have been very, very limited. I would have wanted to do something and I'm like, I don't know how to do this, but now I have this flow. It's
you have your palette, your materials.
Yes.
And so it's not just for you, because you turn it into something that other people can enjoy as well.
Well, so yes, I'm making a fountain, as a matter of fact, a really beautiful fountain. And and I couldn't find, everything I've ever created, I think, comes out of, here's a wall. It would be nice to have something on it. It comes from, or I want a fountain. If I had found one I liked, I probably would have gone with it, but I couldn't. And so now I'm exploring making the thing that does not exist. So it's exactly what I'd like. Right?
To me, that's just very exciting, bringing something into existence that hasn't happened before, learning something new, how that nurtures and expands you. And also, I think what we abandon, what many people abandon, is their artist, their inner artist, as they grow up. Okay, it's okay to do that when you're a kid, but now you got to work, and life is hard, and you have to work hard, and to get ahead. And that doesn't include playing with concrete.
Clearly. But don't you think there is something, why is it either or? I know you and I have discussed that a little bit, but why do people, either they make money or they do something they love? People, are either look a certain way and that means a certain thing. What is this? Why do people need to sort themselves out that way, do you think?
Well, I was just thinking about this the other day, the tendency that human has to go into polarities, to go into either or.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're either for me or you're against me.
Mm-hmm.
You either do this or you're out of here. I'm either in charge or I'm leaving. So this whole, going from one end of the seesaw to the other, rather than experiencing this continuum of choices that really do open up for us when we want to do something new. It's not like a ping pong match. It's really an opening. I was thinking of a fan opening,
Mm-hmm.
because we think that the fan is just, this piece of, we don't even know
One
what it is.
dimensional, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You open it up and there's this whole range that doesn't become possible when we're just, I think, dealing with the world from what I would call our persona,
Mm-hmm.
the way that we've learned to be in the world, to be accepted, to fit in, to have other people look at us as if we belong, and we're not the others. So othering, comes from, you're either like me or you're the other. And when that's the only choice, people, are going to get scared if they don't fit in, or if there are only two choices. And there are so many situations where, like, you can get into an argument with somebody and they want to do it their way and you want to do it your way.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like, one of you, it's based on win-lose, and there are only two choices. And so if you go, well, if we did something entirely different,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
this what we sometimes call the third way. And there are also lots of studies about when you let yourself bounce between polarities, then a third thing can occur.
Mm-hmm.
Something that you wouldn't have even thought of before, like a whole new pathway or a whole new set of information comes in. Or one of you says, "Hey, I learned I learned how to be that rigid from my dad. My
Mm-hmm.
dad would just like, that's how he proved that he was really strong and the provider, because it would be, like, this is my way, this is my decision, I'm in charge here, and as long as you live in my house." So we learn all of those kinds of things that narrow the creative possibilities. I was just thinking of a book back way long time ago when I was in college. There was this great book that came out. It was called "Put Your Mother on the Ceiling," which I just loved. I loved the title.
The title, yeah.
It was really about turning your ideas of things upside down, looking at things from different angles. I mean, literally looking at them from different angles, and, looking under things and behind and around. And what would this be if you turned it over? And when you see young children who encounter something they don't know, they come at it in a sensory way.
Mm-hmm.
Like touching it and turning it over, and might, even if they're really young, they might lick it or try to put it in their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
that sense of exploration is multidimensional. But as we're in school, particularly, we learn that doesn't work. You can't do that. You can't
Mm-hmm.
move. You have to sit here. Yep. And those kinds of rules, I think, close the fan again. So that, and when we do open it, we're very startled, like, oh my God, what? No, I don't know
You
how to
meet
do
someone, or
all
you
this.
meet someone who goes and does something. Do you think the fact that I'm not super versed in astrology, but I am a Gemini. Do you think I'm helped by, like, how, because you're like that, like I've known you to be like exploring new things, and now you're into the gardening thing, and it's like, how do we reopen the fan, I guess? How does someone go after doing now?
That's just, well, the first thing that occurs to me is what creative activity gives me joy,
Mm-hmm.
and start there. And I actually even recommend that if you just spend 10 minutes a day
Mm-hmm.
doing something creative, just
Mm-hmm.
because you want to do it, that's a great way to open your fan. So for me, I'll put some music on that I really like, and I
Mm-hmm.
will just let my body respond to that.
Mm-hmm.
And opening up to how my body wants to move. And then for me, moving creates new ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So for some people, it might be listening to music. For other people, it might be looking at different colors. And, like my mother was an artist, and the only books we had around the house were art books.
Mm-hmm.
We had dictionaries and the encyclopedia and art books. And so I spent lots of time looking at these different pictures of, great art. And that also inspired my creativity.
Hmm.
So 10 minutes a day, somebody might be playing with spices.
Mm-hmm.
And, like I've made this soup 100 times and now I want to do something different. And
Mm-hmm.
so rather than looking at something like a book to tell you what to do, you might just pull out a bunch of things and start playing with them,
Mm-hmm.
putting different things together. Also, I was just thinking about how creative Gay is in the kitchen. And
Mm-hmm.
part of that is because he doesn't have the rules.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody
He
told him,
doesn't
no,
know.
no,
He
no,
doesn't
you
know the
can't
role.
put that with that because, you don't put cinnamon, with something that's savory, that no. But of course you can, like in chili, you put a little bit of cinnamon in chili or chocolate in chili
Mm-hmm.
and changes the whole flavor of it. So
Mm-hmm.
looking for, first of all, ways to interrupt the usual, but
Mm-hmm.
also giving yourself just pure creative time where there's no result that's expected.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be for very long. I've really found that 10 minutes a day, and I think everybody can find 10 minutes
Mm-hmm.
and I actually ask people to set a timer because you might find that 10 minutes is a lot longer than
And
you
you think,
thought.
mm-hmm.
Especially if you have this little inner dialogue about, oh,
What
I'm
am I
not
doing? What a
creative and
waste
I
of
don't.
time. Mhm. Do you, because I understand, I mean, I have my own definition, but I'd love to play with yours. Like I understand art, but creativity to me is a little different. Like creativity could be the way you dress, the way you cook, the way you do your hair. There's ways, like
Absolutely.
people think of themselves as I'm not artistic. You don't have to be exhibited in a museum, to do what we're talking about here. This is more about, I love the way you said interrupting, like you do something differently, like you bring the
Yes.
spice. Like what else do you think are places where people could express their creativity that's not so daunting as.
Well, I love the I like what I call functional art.
Mm-hmm.
That no, and one of my values is beauty. And when we moved to this house, I decided that I wanted to have everywhere that people would look or
Mm-hmm.
be, they would experience beauty.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's been a kind of a grounding, a
Mm-hmm.
commitment that I come back to. That's something that I'm interested in. And then I'm always looking for what might enhance the
Mm-hmm.
beauty.
Mm-hmm.
So you could also take a look at what really lights me up,
Mm-hmm.
where I'm just so happy to be alive, whether it's a certain scent, that really gives you that. Like, carnation is a, really true carnation. The spiciness of it is something that I've loved since I was a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
And I found when I was in New Orleans one year, a long time ago, I found a perfume place called Hove, where they use actual flowers and flower essences, and their perfume is just exquisite. And so I have some of their carnation, and I use that also as a way of stimulating my own creativity because
Mm-hmm.
when I have that scent, it opens up my whole sensory experience. That I'm experiencing more of the weave of beauty in the world. So I would recommend that people look at what makes life a celebration for you rather than a duty. And it
Mm-hmm.
again goes to that either or. Like, you have work to do. There are things that have to get accomplished today. You can't just have fun. But
Mm-hmm.
I found that you can do your work with fun.
Mm-hmm.
You can bring those opposites together. Like, what's one new way that I could make breakfast? Or, I put out tuna for our cats in the morning. So, what's a new way that I could do that would be more fun for me and would deliver tuna to the cat? So I'm not just, I'm going to go through my routine. So
Mm-hmm.
busting up routines, I think, is also a really important thing to stimulate your own creativity.
It's interesting as you were talking, I was also, you and I often talk about connection and the need and the desire to be connected. It sounds like creativity is a way to connect to ourselves. The way you're describing, the way this perfume affects you, or there you are doing your tuna, and instead of being like, okay, let me just open the can, you having a moment with you where you're enhancing this moment, which comes back a little bit to this an act of self-love, like is like when I'm going to go do my concrete thing and I canceled everything else I'm doing so I can go put my hands in concrete. It is an act of self-love. It's something
Yes.
I know is going to elevate me.
Well, and you're giving this to yourself. It's something that you really wanted. And I think also the experience of stepping into the unknown is something that most people fear, and they'd rather be in something familiar, sometimes call it familiar but miserable, rather than stepping into the unknown and maybe having your routine jostled for a little bit, but coming through that with just more play and more experiencing yourself as a work of art, rather than just other people do that.
I love these 10 minutes rules. I mean, not rule, actually the opposite of a rule, but this like 10-minute timer maybe where, because that is absorbable. Like nobody can sit, like it's like meditation, like who does not have, 10, 20 minutes, whatever the time would be. But it sounds like it's a desire for me. It's a desire for you. What if it's not like, how do you elicit the desire in someone that seems already like, can you have stuck yourself so much that you no longer, there's not even a little crack in there that is willing to go and try and open that door?
Well, one thing that occurs to me is that the person might notice, how am I sticking myself? Like, how am I getting myself stuck? So is it, that I'm not moving very much, or I'm not breathing, or I don't give myself new experiences of, something that I enjoy, whether that's, I think music is a really important bridge because it vibrates us in a way that kind of opens up all of the cellular connections. And so if you have music that you like, you could just lie on the floor with the music on and just letting yourself experience being stuck. So rather than moving away from it, just go ahead and go, now, how do you do that? How do you get yourself stuck? So it might be thinking about the same thing over and over again. It might be, it's probably some way in which you judge yourself. And so what's one thing that you could do that you really want to do? And you could kind of prejudge it. Like, okay, now I know you're going to think this is really stupid, but what I'd really like to do is just go skipping around the house. Just going to skip, or I'm going to crawl backwards. So I think also moving in some new ways. Just very fundamentally, like, what's the way that you go from one end of your home to the other? Do that differently. Just take a different path, or go backwards, or or let yourself go upside down, or do a yoga pose, or just some kind of interruption, and then give yourself a moment to notice your level of aliveness. And see if, and it is step by step, because also we have this, people don't realize that learning is definitely a 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. You learn something, and then that opens up something else that you didn't know about, or something that, an old feeling about something that, needs to be processed, or, be with, and then you get back on track again. So it really has to do with giving that to yourself on a regular basis. That's why I say 10 minutes, because people, and I have a little timer. I'll find it so we can share that. So you can have a funny little timer. Like, I have a little cow that is a timer, and then goes, when the timer is up. So letting yourself begin to jostle the life is hard and serious mantra that most of us have grown up with, and gets reinforced every day. Like, how can you be having fun with everything that is going on in the world? But if I'm not creating joy for myself, there's no way I'm going to be able to create it for anybody else.
It's a good segue. I was going to ask you, like, what would be a benefit? Like, when you were describing this person laying down on the floor, somewhat stuck, like, what is the benefit, do you think, in keeping, I mean, it's hard for someone who's stuck to tell them that they're stucking themselves. I think they think that
Right.
the world that's, doing something
Not
to them.
only are you stuck, but you're doing it.
Uh-huh. Like a little bit blame the victim a little bit, but we don't consider that to be true. So as I was imagining being stuck, like I thought, there's got to be value. There's got to be a payoff from no, it's like not life, not feeling alive. Like, what's the value of that? Like, what do people get from doing that? I'm trying to think, like, when do I do that and what do I get from doing that? Because I don't do that a lot, I think.
No, you don't. And I think I think that's pretty evident from the fact that you're going to this particular class,
Otherwise, yes, kind
Well, for most people, safety,
of.
uh, safety, it looks like it's out there. And
Mm,
like I've had people come to trainings and say, it's not safe. It's not safe here. And
ah,
as I've explored that with people, because they put it's not safe, you're not safe. So I can't open up because of you.
mhm,
And don't realize that they are the source of their own safety. And that by letting yourself be where you are, like, for example, I feel stuck, you actually are connecting with yourself again rather than looking at yourself from the outside.
mhm,
And then you can be, oh, no, what can I do right now that will allow me to feel safe enough to take this step into the unknown? Just
mhm.
this one step, and then get comfortable there, and maybe then take another step into the unknown.
That's really profound, this idea of safety. So I was on a call on Friday. I was invited to this thing, a bunch of coaches, very established people, I would say. And the person who was hosting asked us all to introduce ourselves. And she was going to do it in order of whoever, showed up on the little square. So nobody really knew, oh, I'm the next one, or I'm the
Oh,
first.
right,
We
right.
were all
Yeah, so
like,
that's that element of the unknown where you're,
very
ooh,
much so,
yeah.
very much so. And I was going to tell you, I was experiencing something I don't experience very often, where I didn't feel as together as these people. I compared myself.
Uh,
They were very like, I work with this kind of people and I get this kind of blah 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 blah.
right. And these are
But,
the results, and we track them, and yeah.
but it wasn't in a way that was like, I almost myself joked a little bit about how they were genuinely, they were
Yeah.
genuinely in touch with what they do and how they
Yes.
do it. They were just very oiled. They're very, very prepared, like this,
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm not. Like, you ask me on a Monday or a Thursday what I do, but you'll get a completely different answer, which I like about myself usually. But that Friday, I was a little bit like I was observing, and you've said that to me. That's one of my superpower that I love that you've noticed, which is I can be in the moment and observe the moment and kind of make sense of the moment all at once. Like, and it was happening. So I was not avoiding, and so when I started talking, I went there straight up. I was just super vulnerable. And I just spoke to, like, not feeling like my wheels are oiled that way. And
Mm.
and that I was judging myself and that I was, this whole thing. And it was really beautiful because the person after me had a very different shtick. Like, it kind of dropped the, togetherness, or whatever the
Oh, and
overachieving.
I'm like a package.
Yes,
So what I hear, and one thing I love about you is that you're willing to let yourself be messy.
I do.
And one of the big things I learned about creativity a long time ago is that creativity is messy.
Hmm.
It is not all put together. You can have you can be in the middle of a big thing, nobody even knows what it is because you're in the middle of it and it hasn't formed itself yet. And so I think one of our big human tasks is to be willing to open up to the unknown again and again, to step
Hmm.
into, I've, because, you have a certain uh, personality and a certain accomplishment where that you can just sit in.
Hmm.
Like I'm thinking of professors that I used to have that would give the same lecture over and over again. It was a great lecture, but it was the same lecture that they'd given for like 10 years.
Yeah.
But in service of kind of throwing everything away
Yeah.
and seeing now what. And I think that takes tremendous courage, and that not a lot of people are willing to let themselves be that messiness. And so I really celebrate when we're in the in between and not all together. Because
Hmm.
so much of the ethic, I think, especially for women, is that, oh, she really let herself go. I remember my aunt saying that to my mother. She really let herself go. And as a kid, I go, where? Where did she go? I took it quite literally, like, and and what does that mean? She let herself go. So
Hmm.
that sense of control.
Hmm.
So control and creativity, are really oil and water.
Yes. Yes. Talk about concrete. You literally work with a material that you do not see what it's going to be until it dries. And I was working with someone recently doing the beginning of my fountain, and you have the instructions and you mix this and this and that, the other. And I was like, oh, but what if we did it this way? And I had this idea of mixing the colors, and they were looking at me like, but it's not, it's no. And I was like,
Not
no.
that's not on the list. What are you doing?
No,
Yeah.
they were like, "Well, you're not going to know how it's going to react." And I was like, "Great!" Like for me, everything that was good for me, because I think I was comfortable with if it messes up, it's okay. I
Right.
think in order to try something different and new, you have to be okay that you could fall. I mean, I don't love the result. That's why I'm going to the class because I'm going to learn something that I can. I mean, I don't hate it, but I definitely did something that's not exactly what it was supposed to do.
Right.
But and so in some ways I failed, but in some ways I totally win because I'm gonna go learn something so that I can work on top of what I've already done that's different than that it was meant to be. So there's no losing for me. It's just a
No, it's
process.
no losing and no failing. So I was
Yes.
thinking of Edison again, because how many, I think he had like 3,900 and so many trials
Right.
that
Attempts.
failed
Right.
before the light bulb actually,
What?
ta-da,
Yeah.
was created. And so the creating and destroying and being willing, first of all, to have things be messy
Hmm.
and to not be perfect.
Hmm.
So I think it will tickle any insecurity of that I'm actually lovable and I'm a good person and I belong
Even
here.
if, even if.
Yeah, and if I've made a big mess, and especially if I grew up with the sense of everything has to be in its place and tidy, and it's a real creativity killer.
One of my artist teacher, she was actually an art, she called herself a therapist. So it was very much doing art in the purpose of exploring ourselves in a different way. And I remember
Hmm.
her saying, you can paint over it. You can come back to it. It doesn't end. If you do something that you don't like, do something on top of it. Like let it dry.
Oh, I love that. You can paint over it. I think that's just a great phrase. You can, like, there really are no mistakes.
Mm-mm.
But what that brings up for me, even as I'm saying it, is this little bit of fear of like, oh, I'm going to get in trouble, or people aren't going to like it, or I'm going to look stupid, and then exploring that in ourselves and loving ourselves for, maybe looking stupid and maybe, having concrete little bits, that in your
I want to
hair.
send you a picture after I'm done with the
Yeah,
concrete
please
over me.
do. I'd love to see it.
Well, in closing, as we're wrapping up, I'd love to, God, I feel like all our friendship has been about creativity and doing things and trying things. And even this podcast is oh, what if we love our conversations? Let's put it together. But I think neither you nor me was attempting to do something very controlled and very knowing exactly what it was going to be. It was more,
Exactly.
it feels good. It feels like it's going to be fun. So let's follow it.
Yes,
Would you
and
say?
going for aliveness and fun and connection and play. So this is the element I think that many people do not give themselves is play.
Mm-hmm.
Just, what do you like to do when you play? And it could be something organized, but actually spontaneous play is just, is such a nourishment for us. So letting yourself, that's a part of what could happen in that 10 minutes is you could
Mm,
surprise yourself with some impulse to do something that
mhm,
you go, wait a minute, where'd that come from? And
mhm.
that came from your opening creativity.
I love that. Oh, thank you. I feel like I'm going to do that. I'm going to take that on. I'm going to go do
Oh,
10 minutes a day,
oh,
especially
yay.
play with my concrete. Just like do more of that. Oh, have a wonderful week. I love you.
Love you.